Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at NECA's SDCC exclusive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 4-pack. It's the Samurai Turtles from the third movie, and I'm not reviewing the movie, I'm only reviewing the figures. I want to make that very clear. I don't know how many people liked the movie. Let's just do a question of the day. How did you feel about the third live-action Ninja Turtle movie? I know a lot of people didn't even care for the second one because of its semi-goofy nature, and 3 just jumped the shark completely. So I'm very curious how you guys feel about the third movie. But regardless of that, maybe the figures are still really good. It's likely the case with NECA, but who knows? They sent me these so I could review them early for you guys, so that's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and get them off the stand and take a closer look. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at my package real quick. This is the main sleeve on the front. Alright, I take it that resembles the VHS, if I had to guess. There's the side. A little bit more of that right there. They have some stuff back here talking about the movie. A quote from somebody. I don't know who that is. I'm guessing that's some kind of content creator person that said this about that. So yeah, and then it talks about the accessories and stuff. Kind of like a VHS cover. There's the side, and then I'll show you the inside, even though there's really not much to see. Okay, so the inside has just a big window box, and I'll show you the artwork a little bit if I can. Let me just show you that there's really not much to look at, just some photos of the figures back here, which we're going to do in person. And then on the inside, there is actually kind of cool artwork. I don't know if this came from the original movie box or something, like the VHS. I don't want to pull it out. I want to pull this out. And I can't really show it to you that well because it's such a tall box, but there's some cool artwork in there if you like that. Okay, for all of you package people, you have been covered. Now let's look at the plastic that came in the package. We'll just do it with Leonardo and we'll talk about it from there. Alrighty, this guy stands just about, let's take this off actually, let's do that. This guy stands just about, I will call it 17 centimeters. That's pretty darn close, and that's going to make him about just shy of 6 3/4 inches. That should be a good enough measurement. And we're going to do the aesthetic first. They are almost identical, okay? There are a couple slight differences. Obviously, their own faces are different, so we'll do that. We'll look at each of the turtles' faces. Their helmets are all the same. Faces are different. So there's Leo and Mikey. Let's zoom in so you can see. So the real difference would be the face, and then they have different belts. I think that's the only real difference. Of course, Leo has his swords, but that's it. So the bodies are basically all the same, other than the faces and the belts. So there's Donnie and Raph. And this movie did definitely make them look more goofy. But let's go ahead and talk about the details on these bodies. Since we're talking about the aesthetic, these guys are so well detailed. Whether you like this particular look for the live action turtles or not, NECA did a wonderful job capturing it. They did such a good job with the skin texture and the paint around there. The eyes are really good. I don't have any googly eyes, at least not that I've noticed yet. I guess we'll see as we go, but really, really nicely done. The intricate paintwork on there, like obviously it's still a mass-produced figure, but they did a really, really good job with these guys. Lots of detail, shading, all kinds of painted details, physical texturing. These things are really cool looking. So if you're at all interested in this set or the aesthetic, whether you like the movie or not, NECA did not disappoint, as is usually the case with the aesthetic. So we'll pop that back on so you can see what that looks like. Very nicely detailed. Looks good. So aesthetically, they're awesome. And of course, you do have the accessory faceplates if you want to pop those on too. You'll see those later. But these guys look great. If you like this look, these guys look great. Obviously, a figure's not going to make you like something that you didn't like to begin with. The source material is the source material, and that's not NECA's fault. But these guys do look good for what they are, for sure. Nice textured clothing throughout. Very pleased with that. So I'm going to give the aesthetic rating a 9 out of 10. Very, very good. Perfectly acceptable. Whatever little issues there are, that's why it's not a 10, but it's exceptional for these kind of figures. Okay, so let's talk about the accessories. Each turtle obviously gets the main helmet. They do also have faceplates, which are basically all the same except for the slight different colors on some of the mustache pieces, so that's pretty good. You can make those film accurate. NECA's always paying good attention to the details there. I like that. You do get the faces, the heads that come on them in the package. You do get some alternate heads, which are for the first 2 movies, really. They can go on these bodies, but the sculpt is more so for the first 2 movies, particularly, I think, the first movie. But I'm not positive. They look like the first movie to me. Anyway, they are interchangeable, of course, with the other figures, and you can swap out their bananas. So if you don't like those bananas that hang over the shoulders, they are still swappable, so that's cool. You get a wide variety of hands, gripping hands, fist hands, various pose hands. They're all interchangeable across these turtles, so that's good. You get the usual spread of accessories. You get Leo's 2 sword, Donnie's bow, Mikey's nunchucks. They are not wired, it's just a plastic piece. You get Raph's size, and then you do get these 2 other swords that I think are for Michelangelo, as is seen from the movie. You do get the 3 different versions of the Stick of Doom, or whatever this thing was called, I don't remember. You get the normal one, which looks really cool. Then you get the broken version, which actually looks even cooler. Then you get the homemade version, so that's a nice inclusion. And then lastly, you get their robes, which are all very nicely detailed. There is some wiring going on there, and they did make some cutouts for Leo's swords. So that's a really good spread of accessories. I can't think of anything you would really need more. So I'm gonna go, I don't know, 10 out of 10 for accessories. That's all the accessories I could think of. And you got some extra heads even, so pretty cool. All right, let's talk about the articulation. There's a few interesting things going on here. Well, one, these guys are technically on just a straight peg. That's not gonna help for anything for this particular sculpt, but they do swivel. So if you swap in other bandanas from previous releases, they'll swivel. So that's good. The heads have seemingly extra range this time around. They seem to have even more range. They're on a double ball peg. So let's just pop that off actually. All right, so you get a pretty good amount of range on that. You can see it's a very skinny peg with nice big balls. That's how you want to do it. Neck does not move on these guys, but that big ball at the top, especially with another big ball in the neck, gives you plenty of range. So obviously these bandanas aren't necessarily meant for it, but you do get to move that head around quite a bit. Now they added butterfly joints in here, which I guess is nice, but you're still limited by butterfly joints limitations, which is they don't really do much. It's nice to have them, I guess, if you like them. These are kind of loose, and you still don't really get good range. You can bring the arms just ever so slightly more forward than maybe is normal, and they go back a little bit, but it's still very, very limited. So I don't get it. Butterfly joints are almost never worth the budget. Arms get up to horizontal, of course you get your full rotation. No bicep swivel, it's just a single jointed elbow that's going to give you just slightly better than 90 degrees, and you're going to get your rotation out of that. I think that's okay for these figures, but it's definitely not ideal. I think a bicep swivel would have been good, but they didn't want to break the sculpt up, and that's fine. That's generally how NECA does things. Wrists have a swivel and a hinge. It's worth noting none of these gripping hands in this whole set have a vertical hinge. That's very annoying. They all have horizontal hinges, so posing with swords and staffs and things, it's going to be somewhat limiting. Don't like that. And they did it for Kino. They gave him vertical hinges. It's like they know that it's good, but they still don't do it for a lot of the turtle releases, which is very irksome, very bothersome to me. Now for the torso, it's split at the belt, so you do get at least rotation. As far as other things, it's kind of like, it's not loose, but it is just a wiggle. You don't get a ton of range out of any of it, but it'll help for some posing, I guess. It's mostly going to be the twist. For the hips, big old chunky balls, except this time the balls, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see his balls. His balls are faceted, and that's fine, but you will notice it doesn't, because I'm guessing the socket isn't perfectly round. It catches on those facets, so it almost feels ratcheted, but you still don't get that much range going forward. Let's go back. That's the maximum range back and forward. Very, very limited to the front and back. Going out to the side, you already saw, but basically full on splits, so that's really good. That's nice. There, you can see his ball a little bit clearer. Very faceted. They don't normally do that, and I'm guessing the way they do this is there's actually a facet in there around the whole edge, and that's why you feel a little bit of that catch as you're posing them. But nothing's loose, so that's good. Maybe tight in some spots, but not loose, so I'll take it. Thigh swivel is hooked into the hip. Don't have a ton of range, but you do have some. Double jointed knees. The knee itself is actually not a sculpted thing on the back at all. Do you see that? So you don't want to look at those from the back, but let's see how functional they are. I'm guessing not very. So you have the top joint, which does almost nothing, bottom joint, which gives you less than 90. Oh, and it's not sculpted on the front either. Oof. What happened? NECA? You guys don't do stuff like that. Those knee joints are just ugly. They don't work well and they're ugly. That's terrible. Cannot approve of that. They are not sculpted. The knee joints are just blocks that don't work well. This, you can see how high up that top joint is. That's never going to do anything. These knees are awful. You do get rotation at the top and at the bottom, but that's not going to really serve you any real purpose. Ankles go back pretty far. That's good. They go forward far enough, and the ankle rocker is sufficient. So articulation on this guy, as expected, very limited, not particularly useful. It will probably be just good enough. Very disappointing to see those knees. Yeah, they're hidden from the front if you don't use them, but they don't really work, and they are really ugly from the back. So that's very unfortunate. I'll give the articulation a 6 out of 10, which is probably being generous, but I think... No, I'm gonna go 5. These are really not posable. They're gonna pose a little bit. They are action figures technically, but these are all about the aesthetic. And I'm guessing once you get the robe on them and the hood or the helmet and the faceplate and everything, you're not really gonna wouldn't be able to pose them that much anyway. So it's somewhat excusable, but practically speaking, we still have to rate them, and they're not gonna pose well. All right, that's just not what NECA was going for with this set. So, final verdict on this set. Well, I don't care at all about this movie. I tried to as a kid. I tried to a couple of times, and I was just, even as a kid, I was like, this is just nonsense. Where's the first movie? I want that one back. Or even the second one. But these figures are good figures, at least aesthetically and accessory-wise, from the movie. So I can't fault them for that. I'm going to say they can't pose well, but they are really good otherwise. So the set's going to get an 8 out of 10. You know by now, especially after this review, NECA doesn't focus on the articulation. They focus on the aesthetic and the accessories. These are collectibles, first and foremost. They're not meant for play. You can pose them some. If you like that, good. If you don't like that, then they might not be for you. That's why I gave it a low articulation rating, but high ratings everywhere else. They do have slightly different sculpts, it looks like. Well... Why does he keep falling? Maybe they're not separate. Are they different? Oh yeah, his is different for the swords, but the other guys all look to be the same. I'm losing my mind. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to give it a final rating of 8 out of 10. And if you guys are into this sort of thing, you'll enjoy it. Just don't expect to pose them a whole lot, but they do look damn good and they come with cool accessories, and I'll stop rambling. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.